very much for that kind introduction, Dean Chamberlain and Erica, and for your incredible leadership of the law school over the last many years. Dear guests and faculty members and graduates and families, thank you very much for inviting me as your convocation speaker. It's very much an honor for me to be here with you today. And first, my sincere and enthusiastic congratulations to all of you graduates and your families and friends. I am sure it was a team effort to make it possible for today and to have such a joyous day of celebration. I'm in fact really happy to be here today. I started at Western Law School as a 20-year-old in 1974, and yep, you can do the math. So this for me is one of those wonderful circles we experience in life. And this morning I'm thinking about my first year self arriving at Western Law and my current self 5 decades later. And I cannot imagine that today I should be anywhere but here celebrating with you. I'm Irish and I have Viking roots, at least that's the family mythology. And so poetry and the inherent circles of life really do speak to me quite naturally. And you know The Journey, the T.S. Eliot poem, The Journey, it was introduced to me and just as I left law school and was trying to figure out, what was I going to do and where was I going to work and how was I going to earn a living, all of those things. But I think T.S. Eliot was also inspired by the absolute timeless worldviews of Indigenous people and the sacred circles that guide Indigenous lives that are well lived. And so most of you know this poem. It's well known, it's kind of modeling in a way, but it's there. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Well, that's me, I'm back, 50 years later. And so you're probably thinking, as young graduates, that 50 years is a long time to come full circle back to Western law. But it's also a very short time. And so let's talk a little bit about that dialectic. As a first-year law student, and even a graduating law student like all of you, I did not see very much at all how I would live those 50 years, 1974-2024. But here I am. I'm living the living, not the tombstone dash line so far. And kind of what does that look like since I left Western Law School? Well, 3 children, 4 pregnancies, 1 husband, not in that order, but still here, who I met here at Western Law. I graduated from 3 universities. I lived in 4+ countries. I'm still counting those. I worked in over 100 countries, in far too many war zones, far too many famine-stricken areas, many refugee camps. I've had lots of killer diseases. In fact, my family say I'm a walking medical specimen. And I spent my professional career, as Erica said, in every sector of the economy. Small and large law practice, academia, large private sector technology, small and large not-for-profit charitable sector, and most recently in the public sector as Canada's ambassador to the United Nations and the Conference on Disarmament. And now back at Trinity College teaching foreign policy. I did not see any of that coming when I sat here like you 5 decades ago. None of it. This law school and the skills I received, they enabled me and made possible my diverse career and life choices of where to work, who to work with, and who not to work with. But it also made me competent in that work. And for that, I'm hugely appreciative. And you will come to appreciate it more and more as you go through this career life passage. I need to share at the beginning of these brief comments that I am an eternal optimist. I'm not a naive one. I've been around way too long, and I've seen way too much to claim naivete, but I'm a committed believer that the long arc of life, it bends towards justice and humanity. It's way too easy to be pessimistic and even cynical. It's too easy to embrace fear and anger and disdain rather than do the hard work of finding common ground. And you've chosen quite a period in world history to be graduating from university. It would be easy for you to say, this is a terrible time in world history to be embarking on this trip. But if it was easy and perfect, what role would there be for you? Where would you put your skills and your passion and your energy? So it's not easy, but it's not that complicated either. You've managed to get your degrees in a period of a global pandemic where the universities closed as we awaited the scientists and the health experts to figure out vaccines and public health measures and therapeutics to offer some protection for us from a new virus never before seen, and which was decidedly undemocratic in how it impacted the poor and the vulnerable. The engineers and the technologists among you produced new platforms that for us to keep working and studying and staying connected to family and friends as things shut down, and to co-create and collaborate. Zoom became both a product and a verb during your short lifetimes. Solutions were found, battles were fought, we changed, and most certainly the world changed in a big way. You're beginning this chapter now where again the world is threatened on many, many fronts, no question, by the use of nuclear weapons, a nuclear armed state that has invaded its neighbor, occupying armies are committing atrocities, billions suffer every day the consequences of climate heating, hunger stalks millions in a world of food surpluses, and the forcible displacement of innocent individuals by conflict, by human rights abuses, and climate degradation now number 131 fellow human beings. So, who are the scientists and the diplomats and the jurists and the human rights activists and the policy experts we can count on to solve these seemingly intractable challenges? Well, I think they're sitting in this room. You are now better equipped than just about any human being on the planet to solve these things, to find the human, the regulatory, and the technical solutions, and to challenge and hold accountable those who are threatening our lives and our freedoms. So look around you today. You'll be reading about one another in the years to come, and one another's accomplishments and discoveries and contributions, saying, hey, I graduated with her, or I shared a cubicle with him. I can promise you that, even if today that may seem very far-fetched, because we are counting on you, and you are equipped to do this. I said I was an optimist and a pragmatist. I am, because I believe strongly that complacency is the biggest threat to our way of life that we need to keep perfecting and keep working on. Too many people are still excluded and stigmatized and threatened and harmed by our biases and our ignorance, our silence, our complicity, and by the abuse of power. There are no victories for those of us who would just sit around complaining or whining or hand-wringing or hiding and embracing defeat. So, what would I tell that first-year 20-year-old self? So I'm going to share a few thoughts with you from someone still able to self-describe as an optimist, notwithstanding all of that. First, disturb the universe. We are so socialized for inevitability. So make choices, make daring ones. And because very, very little in life and in this world is inevitable. People decide things, not the universe. So do the hard things, you're equipped for it. And find friends and allies to do them with you, because that'll make it easier. It'll keep you safer, I've learned that. And it's also way more fun to do it with friends and allies. Believe that you can improve our imperfect institutions. Believe in the possibilities that things can get better. And while you can't change the world on a dime, it takes hard, dedicated work, it takes courage, it means taking risks, professionally and personally, and expertise. And you've got all that. And it can take longer than your lifetime. So look for the small wins and the steady progress, not just the big bangs, because they'll happen, but not very often. Secondly, understand power and be cognizant of your power and that of others, because it is everywhere between people, communities, and states at the global level, as well as in your day-to-day interactions, personal interactions with your colleagues and your friends and your family and your partners. So be self-aware of your power because of who you are, your place of birth, your education, and everything else that makes you who you are. Know it and use it well, and use it in the service of others. And be thoughtful of those who have much less power, who carry less power. Sometimes compromise is essential in a power dynamic, but also know when compromise isn't possible. Some things are beyond the competition for power. Human rights, ethics, respect, security of the person, which brings me to 3. Practice holding contradictory thoughts and ideas at one time. You can be idealistic and pragmatic and hold on to your values. Time and timing are important, and sometimes it's about timing and sometimes it's about sequencing to get what you need. But so you have to have patient capital, and that's really hard. But learn to have patient capital. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, life is short. I said that, but it's also long. So have an urgent sense of purpose, but don't hurry through the years and miss things. Some things have windows and they only come once, so leap, get on with it, because timing is seldom perfect, but just get on with it because life is also long. Another example would be when I was taught when I started in the technology sector. Make decisions both fast and slow. You're always going to have to make decisions and choices on imperfect information. Time is never perfect. So manage that tension when you make decisions, but make decisions, make choices. But manage that happy tension and sometimes that frustrating tension for that inflection moment when you have enough information and the timing's right and you can get things done. Take that Mack truck through that little window that you get. Very few career choices, and I'm sure some of you are struggling with this right now, are irreversible or fatal. So don't let time and timing be a barrier, just a guide. And please don't think you have to do everything by the time you're 30 or 40. Like the perfect job or the perfect partner, time's on your side. So manage that as fast as you can, as slow as you can. 4th thing is cross borders. I'm a consummate example of that. Cross lots of borders, cross geographic borders, political borders, social borders, economic borders, professional borders, all of them. Hang out with the unlikely like-minded people in life that you're only going to find if you cross those physical and metaphorical borders. And as hard as it is sometimes I just do a lot of deep breathing, listen to the unlike-minded. Otherwise, you're sitting in an echo chamber that advances nothing. Take the time, talk to everyone. Some of the best teachers across borders I've had have been child soldiers, market women across Africa and ages, courageous human rights defenders, prisoners and detainees, very hard to sit with, and refugee children and street children everywhere. You never know where your next best teacher is going to come from. And 5thly, did I already say be an optimist? I have hired hundreds of people in my career and managed and led thousands all over the world. And the ones who stood out were the ones who saw the messes and had a can-do attitude. The problem solvers and the solution seekers. Their first and base instinct was possibility. And they carried that with them and they ignited others. So they often failed too. But optimism can be both self-fulfilling and contagious. So reject the pessimists and those who say, oh, it's too hard, it's too expensive, it's too complicated. You've heard them, right? They're in your head. Just reject learned helplessness. There's lots you can accomplish. Former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, he was a controversial figure, and he recently passed away, but he was at the United Nations many years ago announcing the establishment by Canada of the International Institute for Sustainable Development. And his words are still at the entrance of the IISD headquarters in Winnipeg, whose board of directors I sit on. And I really like them. He said, mankind is not destined to destroy itself. War is not inevitable. Poverty can be alleviated. The environment can be preserved. Injustices can be made right. It says a lot. So before this becomes too maudlin, as convocation speeches often do, let me finish with one last thing to share with you. And this is a big one, and you can't laugh. But I think it's really important. Choose your partners well. Some will tell you buying a house is the biggest decision you're ever going to make. Well, who you choose to partner with in life is much more critical. Who you date, who you surround yourself with, who you marry or live with, they can break your confidence, they can hold you back, or they can lift you up. Surround yourself with the people who lift you up, who give you energy, who can be different and difficult and disagreeable, but they don't pull you down. That's it. That's the best advice I could possibly give, I think. So celebrate today and every day, all these milestones that are only going to come once, and remember how you build your dash, because it's in your hands. And so let me come full circle and conclude by sharing with you a poem called The Dash, which is one of my favorites. But this is the tombstone dash, I need to be clear. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears, but said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we lived and loved and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? So celebrate today and all the things yet to come in your dash. You can't know what is coming, and that's probably a good thing, but live your dash to the fullest, have lots of fun, and remember to celebrate every single day. Thank you.